there, my name is Jasmine Sky and I'm here today with another writing advice video. This is a subject that's near and dear to my heart because I love titling things. We're going to talk all about different types of titles and hopefully it will give you inspiration to title your projects. So let's go ahead and get started. I am breaking down titles into 5 different categories. These are the 5 main components of a title that you can use. So we'll start with our first category, which is character. Titling your book based on a character in it. This does not have to be the main character, though it can be. Examples of that, Naruto, Binti, and Seraphina are all books that are titled after the main character's name. So that is a perfectly valid way to title your book. But you can also title it off of other characters in the book. For instance, Steelheart. Steelheart is the superhero name of the primary antagonist of this book. So that's a great example. The character name also doesn't have to be their actual name. It can be their title. So for instance, Full Metal Alchemist is the main character's title. Sailor Moon is the main character's title. Ancillary Justice is the main character's title. And again, if you're doing someone's title, it also doesn't have to be the main character's title. It can be another important character's title. So there's a lot of different ways that you can name your book after a character in the book. Let's move on to number 2, which is setting, which I think is pretty self-explanatory. This is just naming your book after a set piece, a location in the book. Also, setting includes things like time period. So if you named your book a date, for instance, that would be a setting title, but my examples here are all locations or set pieces. So the Night Circus is a great example, the Hazelwood, and then the ocean at the end of the lane. These are all examples of settings or set pieces that are very important to these books. Number 3 is plot device. I think these titles are really interesting. These are titles based off a specific object or event that is very important to the book. So examples of an important object, we have Dragon Pearl, Front Desk, or The Golden Compass are all very important plot device objects in these books. But also you have events such as the Scorpio races, The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, or Quest for a Kelpie. And you can see here, you can be as broad or as vague as you want. So Scorpio races are the central plot of this book is the Scorpio race of this year, but then Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter or Quest for a Kelpie are literally giving you the plot of the book. So this book is about a quest for a Kelpie. This book is a mystery case about the alchemist's daughter. Another example of that I have right behind me, The Queen's Rising, is again a plot event of the book. The book is about the rising, the revolution, the retaking of a nation by a queen. Number 4, I think, is the rarest of titles, but if done correctly, it is perhaps one of the more impactful type of title, and that is when you take a line directly from the story. Examples of that include The Things They Carried and I Wish You All the Best. These two are direct important lines in these books that are then used as the title of the book. Now, I think one of the key things about a line from a story is that these are more than just a couple words. So there is a lot of cases wherein a single word or a set of words, like 2 words that are in the story, are taken as the title, but I don't really think that counts as a line from the story. The line from the story, I think, is specifically a full phrase that is in the story that they have as the title, and then when it reappears in the story itself, it gives that title and that line more meaning, which is slightly different from just using a word or a couple words, because those are typically themes or plot devices. Number 5, the final category I'm putting last because it's a little bit more nebulous, and that is the theme. Themes can be a lot of different things and can overlap really easily with the other 4 components. But these are examples, I think, of titles that very strongly speak to primary themes in the story. So for instance, Red, White, and Royal Blue, This Is How You Lose the Time War, Hunted, and collateral damage. When it comes to these 5 categories, these are just the component categories, and plenty of titles mix and match these categories to great effect. So for instance, Drowned Country is both the theme and the setting all at once, or The Heart We Sold, which is both the theme and a plot device all at once. You can have something like The Goose Girl, which is both referencing a character and also a plot device. Or you can have titles that just straight up use multiple components. For instance, The Sinister Sweetness of Splendid Academy, which uses theme and setting, or Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow, which uses setting, plot device, and character all in the same title. There's 2 key things to remember when it comes to figuring out the best title for your story. 1, you want to understand the core elements of your story. Is the theme the most important thing? Is the character the central important thing? Is it a plot device that's the most important thing? Is it a specific line, which is often also a theme, things like that. Coming up with titles for your book, I actually think is a really great exercise when you've gotten stuck in the drafting or revising of a project. Because sitting down and thinking about all the possible titles, writing down the primary characters, writing down the primary settings, set pieces, writing down the themes, writing down a couple important lines, writing down the plot devices, whether it's the events or objects that may be important. If you sit down and write all of those components down, it helps you figure out what's most important in your story. The other thing you need to keep in mind for your title is genre and age category. When it comes to pulling in potential readers, often your title is the first thing a reader will see, followed by your cover and potentially your blurb, but the title is first, and therefore your title should give some hint as to your genre and your age category. So for instance, middle grade has a very common titling form, which is something like Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky. It has the main character's name and then something else that gives a hint to what the book is about. So Tristan Strong punches a hole in the sky. This is an action-packed middle grade. Or you have something like Arusha and the End of Time. This is a middle grade quest with high stakes. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, again, uses that formula. This one uses main character's name plus a plot device in the story. And then Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard, The Sword of Summer. You have main character Magnus Chase. You know that it is related to mythology, the Gods of Asgard, and then The Sword of Summer is an important plot device object within this novel. Some other examples I think that do this very well. Truly Devious, you know that this is a darker story because the title is darker. This is a YA murder mystery. The Way of Kings, you can tell this has larger political scope in a medieval fantasy, which fits the fact that it's adult epic fantasy. You also have something like Girl Serpent Thorn, which has sort of the ebb of a darker fairy tale retelling, which contrasts to something like Dealing with Dragons, which plays off fairy tale tropes but has a light-hearted vibe. And then you have something like The Mermaid, the Witch, and the Sea, which just screams out the fact that this is an adventure story, in contrast with something like Cemetery Boys, which seems a little bit more focused and maybe stationary. And this is just as important in contemporary novels. You can tell that Dear Martin is going to be a punch in the gut versus You Should See Me in a Crown would be lighthearted and happier. And that's that. Those are my examples of really good titles across various categories using various components. As you can see, there's a lot of options, but I think once you've narrowed down what is most important for your story, is your story really about your character, or is it about some other character? Is your story really focused on a setting or a set piece? Does your story surround a specific event? Once you've figured out your primary focus for your story and also the vibe that you want your story to give, I think it becomes a lot easier to figure out titles. Now, of course, something to keep in mind is that whatever title you create as your working title, if you're planning on getting traditionally published, may not stay as your title. But that's the kind of thing that your marketing or publicity team might want to change depending on the audience, because they want to do things like make sure that your title fits the conventions of your age group and really gives off the vibe of your genre. So in the end of the day, I think when it comes to choosing your working title, choose the title that fits for yourself the thing that you want to keep in mind about the book. That's what I do anyway. When I choose a working title, I choose a title that helps me anytime I start getting lost in the drafting or revising of my book. I choose a title that helps me refocus on what really matters and what I really want to do and care about and think is the most exciting or otherwise important element of the book. And therefore that's the title that I'm using as my working title. I hope that helped. I know titles can be difficult and confusing, but I also think that they're really fun and I love coming up with working titles. If you want, you can let me know in the comments down below some working titles that you currently have or are coming up with. If you want to give me a list of titles that you're trying to decide between, I'd love to talk with you about what I think about your titles, because again, I love working with titles. I think it's a lot of fun. So with that, please, as always, be sure to check out my description. I have links to important causes that need your support, and I would really appreciate you giving that to them. You can always support my channel by liking this video and subscribing to the channel, and I look forward to chatting with y'all in the comments.